Hello and welcome to what I'm sure will be a interesting episode. I'm joined with, at the moment, GTB Johnny. He operates a wonderful, is it a detail shop? Is it a car wash shop? What do you call the little place you got?
It's an automotive detail shop. We specialize in cleaning. There's what people call clean, which is like running through the car wash. Well, until you run a car through a car wash and then use what's called a clay bar after that, you find out that your car is still dirty. So it's a never-ending OCD nightmare.
Well, let's start off here with the plug before we might get some. So, for those of you, this is the behind-the-scenes bit here. I was going to... Did I say last week that I was going to do a call-in episode this week, Johnny? Is that kind of... I think I did, right? Like on one of the episodes last week? Or am I just...
You just say it's a bi-weekly thing, and I don't think there was one last week, so...
Yeah, that's true. So the behind-the-scenes thing is... well, she might get older and might hear this and get embarrassed. So we'll just say that my daughter did something silly, which then led to everything getting delayed over when I normally want to do the show. So now it's 12:30 at night here, and it's 11:30 where Johnny is. So we'll see if anyone else wants to join us, but it might be too late for anyone else to want to get in on this. So while I'm posting and plugging away, why don't you give us the plugs for your detail shop and then for the podcast you co-host?
Sure. You can always see all my work at attention4detail.com, or you can see even more of my work on Attention for Detail LLC Facebook. If you search that, you can see, what's going on, what are we doing. I try to keep that as up to date as possible. We just got an Instagram account, so Attention for Detail LLC on Instagram. And as far as the business stuff, that's going good. And then for Blown Pistons, you can catch us on Blown Pistons on Spreaker.com, or if you download the Spreaker app and search Bad Habits Network or badhabitsnetwork.net, you can always find our shows there as well.
That's good. Yeah. See, you bought me just enough time to post something, so perfect timing. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, so totally lost my train of thought. So I've made a decision on what I'm going to do with the Volvo in terms of getting it hooked up to the vehicle, and I'm going to go custom fabbed intake manifold, and I'm going to carburate the sucker. Am I a madman?
No. And, when I heard your previous show on talking about that, my kind of idea was the 30-100 would be perfect for you, because the Camaro has the 3.8 Camaro has the intake pointing forward, and I think that'd be a little bit more, kind of what you're going for, really.
Yeah.
Or you could slap an M90 supercharger on it.
Yeah, I've gotten a lot of grief recently by people commenting. I'm like, well, why are you going with such a weird motor like this little Nissan motor that you got? The reason I'm going with the Nissan motor is because I happened to be able to get it for $100. So,
yeah.
You can't really beat that. And there's not really another. I would love to get a Camaro motor or something that had more aftermarket support, but for the investment I have in it, I don't think you can beat $100. Now, who knows if this thing runs? That would be the ultimate joke, to spend all this time and effort doing this, and then the damn thing doesn't run, but whatever.
Right.
Then I can go get a 5.0, I guess, and then call it a life. Or maybe Ford could just send me one. That'd be nice. Ford, if you're listening, I know you're not listening, but send me a 5.0 Coyote. Modular motor. I think this is one of the few cars where the Ford modular might actually fit into it with room to spare. Or I did see. Have you seen B is for Build on YouTube, Johnny?
I have not.
Okay, so
but I think you've talked about it once before.
Yeah. So Tavares showed me B is for Build, and then I went and I checked out B is for Build, and his sponsor is Copar, which is like a junkyard resource. You got to like sign in, log in, and like go jump through a few hoops. It seems like, but basically it lets you bid on stuff alongside dealers. But there's still like some stuff that's locked out just for dealers or whatever. But one of the things I saw on that site is they had a Dodge Challenger Hellcat that was already wrecked, and like the current bid on it was like $6,000 just for the parts. And I was like, that would be awesome to put into this thing. I'm sure that's not going to stay at $6,000, but you know, I feel like just a little bit of tuning, I could get that up to 740 horsepower. And since it's a Volvo 740, that would just be perfect to go along with it, right?
Right. Well, dude, I think that's a great idea. I think that would completely just be mad. You know, because you know, I heard once that they tried putting the Hellcat motor in the Viper, but the Viper was too narrow in the engine compartment there. Mm-hmm. That's what I heard. I don't know if it's true or not, but it seems logical.
You know, it makes sense because the Viper, when you really get up close and personal with it, the Viper is a much smaller car than the Challenger, which is a little counterintuitive. But like the Challenger is a fucking boat. Like you could, like honestly, like, well, from the front of the Viper's bumper to where the cabin begins is one smart car in length. You know, that gives you an idea about how big that car is. And then like the Viper, when you put it up next to it, you know, it's much lower and it's much narrower sidewise. It might be a similar length, maybe wheelbase wise, but it's still a shorter car even lengthwise. So, like, seeing them next to each other, you really get an impression of like how small the Viper really is, as you know, other cars have kind of like bloated up. So.
So has the world.
Yeah, this is true. America in general, yeah. No, it's. I don't know. It's speaking of that. Like, I mean, you drive around old Pontiacs. You know, that's kind of, you know, they've all been kind
90s.
of. Yeah, it's still. I mean, you think about it. That's 20+ years ago now. Some of those things. Right. So you know, they're kind of frozen in time. You know, in terms of like their size compared to like modern cars. Like even like the early 2000s in GM products, you could really tell like the A-pillar in like the Saturn had like gone from like next to nothing to like probably like 6 inches wide at like its widest point. Like when you like I almost ran over people, like no joke, because of that A-pillar.
Right.
Like you'd be stopped.
Crash testing.
Yeah, no, you flip the thing over. I mean, just the little cars you've seen. I'm sure you've driven other more modern cars than just the Pontiacs you've had. Do you really like feel a difference in like cabin volume or like cabin like in the glass house, I guess is the word I'm looking for, because my brain is on fucking fried right now?
Well, I mean, I got to drive a 57 Chevy for not very long, but you know that thing was incredible. I mean, it was restored. It was like you were inside a fishbowl. You could see out of like everywhere you looked, you could see. But you know, I drove a 2010 Camaro today as one of my clients, and that thing is tiny. If you lay the seat or put the seat all the way back, you're up against the back seat in that. Like, holy crap! The new Camaros are tiny in the interior.
You know,
but I mean,
they're claustrophobic. I mean, they're a big car, but they're claustrophobic. Exactly. I think is a good one for it. Yeah.
But where is all the room going? I mean, you barely have any room. Or the engine looks like neatly packaged. The trunk is so freaking tiny. I mean, I couldn't even get a decent sub box into the hole there.
Yeah. It's freaking crashes. I mean, I've driven the convertible one. I haven't driven the hardtop one. But like the convertible one, there's like no room in that trunk, but that's because it's convertible. But even with the top down, like, because the waist of the car, I guess, or like the bottom of the glass, whatever you want to call that, is so high up, like you don't really feel like you're in an open top vehicle. It just kind of feels like, I don't know, it just has this like weird, like you feel like you're driving around in a bathtub almost.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I know the size of this car. It's pretty big.
Yeah.
but it's not here.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know what's weird is what's the opposite of that is actually the smart car felt like a much bigger car once you put the top down. Like
I thought you were gonna go into your Mitsubishi Mirage love rant here.
The Mirage is a good car for what it is. I swear to God. Why does everyone hate the Mirage? No, I'm not going to go there. Have you got to detail a Mirage yet? I'm sure the answer is no. Yeah.
No, not yet. I do see them from time to time, and I was like, oh, okay. It's just another car.
Yeah, I mean, they really don't stick out anywhere. I mean, they are the blandest looking car on the road. They brand new. They do look like they're a used car, brand new, which is kind of a knock on them. But again, it gets the job done. But I'm not going to go into my Mitsubishi love rant here. Okay, so we're just going to
getaway car confirmed.
Yeah, well, it would be a good one, although not really because it's not a lot of power.
But,
yeah, mm-hmm.
But it blends in.
It does blend in. Yeah, it's so boring. Like I would still get a bright pink one. When I was talking to the Mitsubishi execs at the auto show, or one of the executives at the auto show, he was talking about there's some guy in the U.S. who drives a all-wheel drive Mirage with a Lancer Evo drivetrain in it.
Ooh.
And I was like, that is an amazing vehicle.
Sleeper?
Yeah, like that is the ultimate sleeper, and like it's like some like weird rally classification because it's like a 2-liter motor. It's got to be like all stock parts from like the same manufacturer. So it's like here's the Mirage with I want to say it was Lancer Evo drivetrain in it, but I'm having second thoughts on it. It might be some other weird off-seas like Mitsubishi we don't get here, but it was still like a 300 plus horsepower Mitsubishi. I'm like, why aren't you selling that here? And again, his answer was, the Mirage sells. Like, why would we put money into a vehicle that sells that we don't have to put any R&D to? When we're...
But
yeah.
Could you imagine if that went production, like the Mirage Evolution, all-wheel drive, turbo, insaneness in a tiny car?
Yeah, I think it would sell, but I think you'd have a hard time. See, here's the thing. Like, I kind of got from talking to a couple of people who do the like automotive design stuff at New York was there's the enthusiasts already have a brand loyalty. Like, let's say Pontiac, and they're not going to go out and they're not going to buy a Mitsubishi, no matter how good the Mitsubishi is, So when you're trying to sell something like a Ford Focus RS, you have to say, is there enough people in this brand loyalty already who will make this vehicle profitable, or is it going to draw enough people in from other markets? But that other market being drawn into, you can be a Ford and do that. You can't be a Mitsubishi and do that, So,
right.
Like, you got to be, like, I don't know, like, you got to be better. You got to be known for better quality from the get-go. You can't be the person, weirdly you can kick down, but you can't kick up. It's like the opposite of comedy, which is weird.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know.
Right.
Strange. Yeah. Weird time we're living in. Yeah, where Ford is better than Mitsubishi. That is crazy.
But I'm upset with Mitsubishi right now because they killed the Eclipse.
Yeah.
Now it's a crossover?
Uh-huh. The Eclipse Cross. Yeah. No.
No.
I know it's. Well, that's the thing. It's like I have weirdly no. So I lived less than a mile from their only plant in the U.S. Maybe it was a little bit more than a mile. But I lived in the hometown of their plant. I would see these cars driving around all the time, but I never had any love for them until weirdly I drove the Mirage. So it's weird. So the Eclipse totally passed me by. It was like the Eclipse. I get it, but in my mind it's not doing it that much of a disservice to call it an Eclipse Cross. It sounds like a bad '90s band. I don't know. I'm surprised to hear you, a Pontiac purist talking about the Eclipse with such an affection. Like, I can't remember.
Well,
did you ever have one?
I never had one, but I've ridden in a few. My sister had one, and so I got to drive it a little bit, but it really I kind of like the famous one, I guess, before the Spider. The 90s body style, I guess. They look good. And I mean, I've always been kind of like interested, like, how do you say, like, interested in tuner, but not going to go there.
Mm-hmm. Like you, no. Like it's like it's like a fetish
like
that you watch the videos of, but you won't ever actually do. Like you watch the bondage videos, but you won't buy the whip. That's kind of
right. Or like a right-hand drive 300Z.
Yeah, you showed me that. That looks. I want a right-hand drive car. Would you get a 300? I mean, honestly, like if you were thinking about getting a right-hand drive car, the first thing that comes to my mind is not a 300Z. That just seems like a waste of getting a right-hand drive car.
Neither is mine. And I told the guy, I'm like, how much did you pay for this? And he told me, about 30. I don't know what he paid, but I threw out like 30. He goes, yeah, somewhere close to that. I'm like, dude, honestly, if I'm spending $30,000, I'm getting an R33.
Yeah.
Because that's such a beautiful car. I mean, if I could get a 300Z for half that, maybe. But I mean, being on the right-hand side of the road is kind of weird too, because you want to stick to that center line. Well, you can't do that in a right-hand drive. You got to mentally remap your head to keep it on the white line instead of the yellows.
Yeah. Well, it's weird too because like
still first gear.
Yeah, like you're using your left hand to shift. You're away from you and up as opposed to towards you and up. Like so that's weird. But the clutch is still on the same side. It's everything's just a little off. But if you're going to get something that's weird and goofy, like you said, an R32, that's like a perfect example. Like go out and get a Skyline. Or if you don't want to spend the money, go out and get like a K car, like a Honda Beat, or go get a, one of the goofy vans you couldn't get here. Like, it seems like such a waste to be. You know what it is? It's the equivalent of going to France and going to McDonald's. Like, yeah, it's French food in theory, but it's still McDonald's. Like, you could still get that same thing here. Like, and you could get a 300Z all day, every day for less than $5,000. They're not that expensive. Right. So, I don't know, $30,000 for a Z that was driven in a country that still has road salt? No. I'm
yeah.
I mean, it's cool in a way that because it is such an outside-the-box idea. I don't know. Did you drive it at all?
The K car or
no,
the 300Z?
The 300Z.
Yes. I got to drive it around the block. And like I said, it was interesting. I was kind of falling in love with it after I got back to the shop because he attended the grand opening event, and I was all like, dude, can I drive? He goes, yeah, okay. Just gives me the keys, and I'm all like, you're the nicest stranger I've ever met. And no issues, I didn't beat on the car or anything because I completely respected the dude, and I'm not gonna rip some burnouts in your car because I don't know it, so and I don't want to pay for it. So
yeah, I can't imagine getting. I don't know, like, but this could be weird too. Is like getting that registered because it is a Z, but it doesn't have the right.
Z.
What? It is a
Lady Z.
That is true. So, I mean, was there anything really noticeably different about it, though, besides being right-hand drive?
He had stickers on the speedometer for the conversion, like 25 miles an hour. Yeah. God knows where those are.
Yeah, true.
Otherwise, like I said, when you're driving it, you tend to pull toward the center line because your brain's still wrapped around left-hand drive. Otherwise, it rode and drove just fine. I mean, like you said, you're pushing the gear stick out and up for first, and bringing it toward you, and I mean, it felt off, but it was. I was also grinning ear to ear like this is the coolest thing in the world. So,
it
was good times.
No, it is. It is good times. I'm sorry. I'm half distracted answering questions while I'm doing this. It's it makes for good podcasting. Like bring you on, and then I get distracted easily. So, what?
Squirrel.
Yeah, exactly.
But we also had a Alfa Romeo 4C come down, and oh my God,
that's gorgeous. Yeah.
Carbon fiber tub and everything. The same guy who owns that car, his wife brought his Ford Focus RS down.
Ooh.
So I got up close in that, and he told me he got attacked by a drone.
How?
Like a drone was flying behind him.
Yeah.
And he stopped, and the drone didn't, and bam, right into the rear spoiler.
Oh.
So he did the guy a favor, threw it in reverse, and ran over the drone.
Well, there you go. Yeah. Was there any damage done to the RS? Or was this the 4C?
The RS was damaged, but it kind of, it had this really cool like blue wrap on it, like white and blue. It's fancy.
Oh,
pretty
yeah,
cool.
I saw that one. I think you sent me a picture of it.
I did.
That thing looked gorgeous.
Yeah.
Like I can't.
We packed the lot twice that day.
That's really good. You did. I mean, I'm sure it feels good getting all those guys down. I mean, opening up a shop, I'm sure, has been a stressful endeavor, to say the least.
It has, especially when you're trying to open up a clean detailing service in February when there's still freaking cold out.
Yeah.
So I mean, we don't know how we did it, but Mother Nature decided to give us a really warm week in February, so that slammed us, and we got we were able to pay the bills with that, and somehow we keep managing to pay bills and keep moving forward. So,
I mean, color me impressed, to be honest, because it's Wisconsin, and you're a little bit up there. You're north of Madison a little ways, right?
No, I'm southern Madison.
South Madison.
I'm about 45 minutes, an hour south of Madison.
Okay, I'm trying to.
I'm in the. If you were to like mentally image, like Wisconsin, you put your fingertip on the southeastern corner. Mm-hmm. I'm in that area.
So close to Kenosha.
Still far away from Kenosha. I'm closer to Janesville. I'm closer to Beloit.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to remember. There's a town name in Wisconsin that I absolutely love, and I'm trying to remember what the hell it is. I want to say it's Sheboygan.
Sheboygan?
There's another weird town in Wisconsin that's absolutely great. Wisconsin definitely has
a few like Spread Eagle, Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but there's like the ones that like sound like just someone like had like a bowel movement, and like that was like the Sheboygan, like
Kakana.
Yeah, exactly. Kenosha. Yeah, I'm pretty sure an actual shit was taken up in Green Bay, but that's just a Bears fan in me speaking.
And then the after effect was
I like Michigan, or I don't like Michigan. That's going farther. I like Wisconsin. I like the town names. I'm impressed. So you're kind of like sandwiched between two. Milwaukee's a fairly big town, and then you got Chicago, not too far away.
Yeah.
I mean, is there really?
Portillo's is about an hour drive.
Yeah, no,
either way I go. Go up to Milwaukee, or I could go down to Illinois.
Mm-hmm. They were talking about opening one up in Kenosha. I'm just saying, and I'm waiting for that one. And then one day I'm going to just move into Portillo's. That's just the goal. So, or Illuminati's. I don't know. Illuminati's followed me back on Twitter, so they're in the leader in the clubhouse right now. But
cardboard boxes. They're the latest rage.
I could. if I was a single man, I thought about this the other day. If I was a single man, I think I would buy a like K car van, like one of those small ones to live in, and just like begin a life on the road. Because like I don't know, I could do this on the road, and why not? With no child or wife, huh?
If
What?
I could do that, I would get like the Chevy C20 or something like that with the Explorer pack, because that had that bench seat that folded down into a bed.
Mm-hmm. See,
oh yeah, those are comfortable.
those are good. My family had the conversion vans as we were growing up, so it was always like the back seat. Like we had a Chevy one, we had a Ford one, and they were fairly comfortable. The only reason I said K van is because of gas mileage. Because if it's going to be something where, like, I was like broke with no money, living out on the edge, a gallon of gas taking you a whole bunch of kilometers because that's all the speedometer's in. That's the way to do it. So, I don't know. But then again, I'm 6'2" in a K van would be probably pretty dumb. So
yeah, you get a big van like this, you find a job, you park in the parking lot, and you live there, man. You live there as long as you can.
Mm-hmm. That's true. If I ever become single or something terrible happens in life, that K van Ike, that's how you know my life has just gone sideways.
This is Ike from the road. You're listening to the Untitled Car Show.
At that point, it'd be the like creepy van show. Like, hello, and welcome to the creepy van show. Yeah.
Today's guest is this guy because he let me use his shower.
Yeah. This is Billy Two Teeth. They call him that because he's got one tooth, and it's ironic. Billy Two Teeth, how you doing? Like, all right, see you later, babe. And then I get shanked somehow. Like, it would probably be the first shanking on a podcast, though, so we got that going for us.
All right.
Yeah. So this is what happens when I get a little bit too punch drunk in the evening here. So the brain starts to discombobulate. I don't know. So
we could have started with sleep deprivation or depreciation.
The deprivation, yeah. Something. There's a word in there somewhere. Yeah. Oh, it's. I don't know. It's an interesting. This is life, Jody. It's weird. So you got the detailing business, and I am very, impressed by it. I'm a little envious of it, to be perfectly honest. But the one thing I don't get, and I'm glad there's people out there like you to do it. I hate cleaning cars. I don't know, like how do you?
Does.
Yeah. So I mean, that's a good business for you. Like, do you actually enjoy it, or is it just something that you found a talent for?
It's something that, yes, to both. I do find it somewhat therapeutic, and it's really nice, especially when your customers are like, damn, like a customer, one of my customers, he tells people like, oh, I'm just going to take it to my detailer. They're like, why? Just do it yourself. And my friend, my client goes, no, you don't understand. This guy is that good. Like, I turned his unrestored 74 Formula Firebird. Laid some wax. I polished that, laid some wax on it, and it looks like it was freshly painted. And he's happy as pleased as punch. And I mean, I just like doing it. I mean, I like some of the classic cars that come in are really cool. Just taking you back to a different time, like how were the guys in the 50s doing this? When there wasn't as much technology put into it as there was back then. Yeah. And I mean, it can some of the cars take you back. Other cars are kind of a different challenge because you're dealing with different like materials like suede, microfibers. You're dealing with leathers and cloth, and trying to make it better than what it once was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we got someone else trying to join. Dylan, who is the crazed Kanuck on Opposite Lock, tried to add him. So if you hear me fiddling around right now with the phone, that's what's going on. So sending him a message that apparently we need to be contacts for me to add to the call. Yeah, so that's a thing.
Okay.
So I've lost the ability to multitask, so I'm just talking through what the hell I'm doing. So that way it makes it a little bit easier. So if he doesn't get on the call, then that's why he doesn't get on the call. But if he does, then whatever. So we're just trying to add Dylan to this thing. So yep.
But yeah, detailing is something I kind of found, I'm a really big car enthusiast. I love cars, and I have a strong passion for them, and it kind of shows through my detailing, I believe, and and it's really cool for a customer to say like, oh well, it hasn't looked that good since I bought it. It hasn't looked that good since I rolled off the showroom, and it's like, oh yay, hi, yeah, I'm kind of good at it, like, yeah. And then but sometimes people are shocked to hear, like, people ask me all the time, well, how long is this going to take? Well, it's going to take me 5 hours. And they're kind of like, 5 hours. And I'm like, yeah. I mean, there's it's not like we're using tools, we're using a lot of product, chemicals, for every surface, and some people get it, some people don't.
Yeah, I mean, 5 hours seems like a long time until you realize, what you're really doing to the car. I'm sure you're going through your clay barring it, you're, waxing it. You're taking off all the dirt and grunt that's built up over who knows how many years, and then you got to restore everything to make it shiny again.
Yeah, sometimes we're pulling out like magic erasers on some of the lighter interiors because of your skin oil breaking.
Hello.
Well, that was a little shocking. Dylan, how you doing?
Yeah, crazy stuff here.
I'm having a hard time making you out. What's going on?
Crazy Kanuck.
Yeah, hi, Crazy Kanuck. How you doing? Welcome to the call. We have GTB Johnny. He's from the Blown Pistons. We're talking about detailing at that moment. So.
1 second. Beer spilt. Be back.
All right. Well, that's interesting. So he spilled his beer. So while he's spilling his beer, finish off what you were saying, Johnny.
I didn't even understand that. I'm like, huh?
Mm-hmm. I can translate Canadian. It's a talent of mine. So.
Oh, fantastic. But
you
we
should
need
be
to
better
use
at
Chicago dogs.
Yeah, I would say you should be better at translating Canadian. You're basically, next door to them, up there where you live. So they're one lake away from you. So.
Yeah, I've actually asked like a couple Canadian people, like, is A really a thing? And one guy described it like this.
I'm back now.
Welcome back.
One guy pretty much described me like the guys who say A a lot are kind of like the American rednecks of Canada.
Well, is that true, Crazy Kanuck? Are the people in Canada who say A the crazy rednecks of Canada?
There's farmers and hockey players.
There's. Well, what beer are you drinking? And I'm curious. Like, what beer are you drinking, and how many beers in are you?
That's some funky craft IPA that tastes terrible.
And how many beers deep are you at the moment?
I don't know. I lost count a while back.
Is this all a secret plan to keep warm? Is that what's going on here? I just picture.
I'm not warm right now.
Yeah, I just picture Canada as like a frozen wasteland.
Not warm.
Still
alive has mean something.
There's obviously a little bit of delay going on here. What kind of car do you drive?
Why are you asking that? Is that even a question?
This is how this works. Is I ask questions and you fill airtime for me.
Oh yeah, a Jew.
A Jew?
I'm that guy that owns Jew.
Oh, you're the guy who owns a Juke. You're the one guy. So.
Not a bad car.
No, it's not. I like it more than I like any of the other small crossovers, just because it's so woefully offensive that it's cute again. Like, it's a good-looking car because it stopped giving a shit about what you think about it like 6 designs ago. So,
my fiance had a Nismo Juke. That was pretty awesome. It was like a go-kart.
Through the Nismo, total scam right there. The RS is what you want. The Nismo, it is a body and suspension package. That's all it is. The RS has a limited slip and so much chassis bracing, and that's what you want for a Juke.
Right. Hers had the turbo too, so that was cool.
Yeah, killer mid-range on it. Great mid-range, around $3,000. It surges like crazy.
I don't know. Is it practical though? Like the Juke, honestly.
The Nismo was, yeah.
You know what? It is a kind of that awkward position within the cars. It wants to be a hatchback, a crossover, but it has none of the space of the two. So it has the looks of a crossover, but it has the capacity of a coupe.
Yeah.
If that's fair enough.
Yeah, I mean,
he's right.
So when passionate,
it tries to be a hatchback. It tries to be a crossover, but you really don't have that much space in there.
No, I mean, can an adult sit in the back seat?
Yes.
Well, I'm 5'11" and my height's in a leg, so I can sit and have a few inches of knee room. It is the headroom that's the issue.
So what I'm hearing is the Mitsubishi Mirage is a better vehicle. I got it. Okay, that we started with some Mirage left, so we're gonna add that in at the moment. So
full circle.
All right, Crazy Kanuck. I asked this of a lot of my guests, and I'll ask it of you just because I'm curious about your idea on this. What do you think's the hardest food to eat while you're driving?
A burrito.
Oh, that's the go-to answer of everyone. I was hoping for something crazy and Canadian. I was expecting you to live up to your username. Poutine. Okay, poutine is fine.
Poutine?
Yeah, poutine, why not? Yes. It's
sloppy and messy.
Yeah,
but great.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I still think I have the top answer.
I really need to start writing these down though, because I've gotten some great answers and I've forgotten every single one of them. So
I told you last time, it was like, yeah, another person is really hard to eat when you're driving, but
only if they're not willing. Only if they're not willing.
That's considered cannibalism, and it's frowned upon in most societies.
Most societies. So, I don't know. It's interesting. Now, here's an interesting one for you, too. Do you hate detailing your car, Crazy Kanuck?
I'm more of a driver myself, so I'm much rather be out driving instead of cleaning it.
Mm-hmm.
I hate detailing.
Yeah, it's funny because Johnny owns a detailing business. It started up recently, and I was saying that kudos to him because detailing is probably my least favorite activity to do with a car. Possibly brake change, slightly more annoying. So, but even brake change, I don't know.
I'm killing me for this, but today I went to the car wash today.
You went to the car wash?
Car wash.
Yeah.
I put in $10 and did it that way. I wash it.
Yeah.
As bad as it sounds.
I mean, it's not the worst thing. I mean, Johnny, in your professional opinion, is it the worst thing? Is it better or worse than going to one of those places where they have like all the brushes and everything?
okay, if you're gonna go through a brush car wash, you might as well take sandpaper to your paint.
Yeah.
That's it. The brushes ruin your paint the fastest. Now the touchless ones are better, but the touchless ones don't go deep enough.
Yeah.
So the best method to clean your car is what has been coined in the industry as a 2-bucket method. So you're gonna have soap and water in one, and you're gonna have just water in the other. So you dunk it in the soap, scrub, dunk it in the water, till the water's gonna.
Yeah. We're getting a little breakup.
Dump all the dirt in the soap bucket.
We're getting a little bit of breakup there. So, but would you say you would rather someone go to a coin-op place with like the pressure jets, or do you think you'd rather have them go to a touchless like drive-through car wash?
Well, I would, if you had to go through an automatic car wash, touchless or laser or whatever is per the way to go. Yeah. If you're stuck there, I mean, if it's between that and brush, I'd never go to a brushless or brush car wash.
Why not? One time, Miles Sonic, because I had go to that place once for brushes once. 5 minutes later, I traded it. The one time.
Yeah.
I mean, that's basically just making it someone else's problem. Yeah.
I mean, I signed off. Here, take it. Your problem now. Why should I care?
Yeah. Like, fuck you, other guy who's gonna have to deal with this paint. I mean, the road salt's got to be awful up in Canada, right? Yeah. Hmm?
Pardon me?
I said the road salt's got to be just awful up in Canada, right? Like,
in winter, I didn't wash it for 3 months. I couldn't find time. It was so cold.
Yeah.
So at one, it's a brown, white, and red mishmash of colors.
Yeah, that sounds absolutely awful. I mean, I can't imagine that's one for you, Jay. How do you clean the underside of a car?
Pardon me?
I was asking Johnny how would you go about cleaning the bottom of a car?
I just power wash it the best I can.
Yeah.
I've actually considered buying some pipe and kind of making my home like a homemade pressure power washer like system where I can have an underwash like rig set up, but I haven't figured out how I'm going to do that yet.
Yeah. Because that's got to be just like, you live in Wisconsin, and that's just got to be the same problem. Tons of road salt up there. Although this last winter, I'm sure there wasn't much snow. So
no, there wasn't.
Oh, here's the thing. There's one great aspect of winter. Twisty side roads are dead in winter and are touched rarely. So they're great just to go up winter and just bomb them. Great in summer, great in winter.
Yeah.
In that aspect, it's wonderful.
Well, how's the Juke handle those side roads? Is it good for them? I can't imagine it is. But I've never driven one. I'm very curious about the Juke.
In the end, it is still a top-heavy crossover, so it will never be a proper hot hatch.
Yeah.
It's still top-heavy and will always be top-heavy no matter what you do to it.
Yeah.
So it will always be leaning corners more than it should.
Yeah. But is it completely compromised on the back roads, or is it, I don't know, is it still enjoyable enough? I know, the great quote from James May is, the difference between driving a crappy car and a supercar is nothing compared to the gulf between driving no car and the crappiest car. So I get there's always going to be some enjoyment of the back roads, no matter what vehicle you're in, but, the power to weight and the handling being a little compromised, is it still something you can get out and blast around and still have some fun in, or is it too much of a handful on the back road?
In all honesty, it is like weight wise, it is a 2,900 pounds weight dry, and still in dyno the stock Duke and dynoed 173 wheel. So that's more like 200 crank, and Nissan calls it 190 crank. So it's not a bad. It's not bad for a street ratio.
No, it's pretty good. So power to weight, that's up there with hot hatchbacks. You know, that's not too bad. So I can see enjoying that. So did they make the Juke?
Too, how mine has a 6-speed, and that helps a lot. Having a 6-speed manual in it helps a lot. Ooh. I can't imagine having a CVT in that just kill the engine so much. I
wonder if you can. Go on, Johnny. I'm sorry.
I drove the one with my fiance. She had CVT in it, and it really wasn't bad. I mean, the turbo kicked in, and it was just like, wait for it, boom, and you took off. And shifting down into using the paddles, using the paddles and shifting down to third gear, going around a roundabout, hitting the apex, and just launching out was just awesome in that thing.
Yeah, I wonder if they even sell the manual in the States in the Juke. I can't.
They do, but it is I'll explain. So last year you could get a manual like in the SB, but as of May 2017, it's offered for Nismo only. But up here in Canada, Nissan is different up here. Nissan gathers Canada, and I hate it. Because last year, you could buy a manual RS. This year, you could get a just an automatic Nismo, that's it. The manual is only available for the SB up here.
It's sad to see it going, yeah.
No, but even worse, up here, the SB is equal to the base model US S trim Juke. So same bag, but different everything. So mine's the SB, but it has none of the controls. Like you see how it has like the sport, eco, and normal mode. Mine don't have that.
Huh. That sucks. I mean, the fact that manufacturers dick with people who buy manuals to this extent is infuriating to me. I mean, is there a manufacturer who... I mean, let's see here. The Ford Focus and Fiesta, every version of that car you can get with a manual. Those might be the only two cars left where you can get every version of it in a manual. Well, besides like the Corvette and the Mustang, I guess. One more.
One more. And Mini offers manuals in all trims in all cars.
Yeah. Ooh, that's a good point. They might be the only ones who, across the model line, have manuals in all their vehicles. Because, like, not even, with the exception of Smart, which only offers one car, which comes with a manual, but you have to special order the manual. Yeah, because Mitsubishi doesn't, definitely. Nissan definitely doesn't. Ford, Chevy. Yeah, Toyota definitely not. No one besides probably Mini. Maybe BMW. Is there a BMW you can't get without a manual in it? Oh, they're SUVs. They're SUVs. Yeah.
Well, actually, up here in Canada, I was looking at our website. So you can know it's different in the States for like you can get a manual like usual, but you can no longer get a 3 Series of the stick up here in Canada anymore.
Ugh. Why? I get that there's this argument now that, you know, it used to be you could make the manual and it would be cheaper because the manual didn't require, you know, the computer and all the logic board that an automatic did. And now it's the reverse, where you need to tell the engine of a manual car how to work, you know, with the driver and like kind of to anticipate what they're doing, but then still come up with, you know, solutions for what is basically human error. But at the end of the day, if you're offering a manual transmission in the car somewhere in the world, you should offer it everywhere in the world. I don't see why they don't do that. Even if you got to special order it, like that's what always drove me nuts about Volvo, is Volvo for like the last 5 years, you couldn't get a manual in except one model, and they offered manuals in all their models all over the rest of the world. It's like, if you sell it somewhere else, just give us the option.
C30 in North America.
Yeah, I had a C30. It was the last manual Volvo you could get. Yeah. Yeah. No, great cars, but, I would rather have a V60R with a manual than a V60R with the paddle shifters. And they sell the V60R everywhere else in the world with a manual. I know, but they sell it. Why can't we get it? Like, that's the thing. It's not like it doesn't exist. They have it.
Because automakers hate North America. That's why.
Yeah.
They hate North America. They hate our market in general.
Yeah.
They hate us.
Mm-hmm. Do you blame America? Do you blame America for that?
No answer.
That's a yes. He's just afraid of the wall we're going to build.
But yeah, I have.
Yeah, the walls are overrated. They have a ladder to like Batman, shoot that spike and jump up it.
Yeah, I've looked into Mini like after watching the Italian Job, I was all like, hey, Mini's kind of cool. But then I saw the 12-inch diameter speedometer, and I'm like, oh, that's not cool. The guy that thing's so big that the guy behind you can see how fast you're going.
Yeah.
I hate that. I hate that so much. How cars that. I call those the backseat driver's bombers. I hate those so much.
Yeah, I'm like, holy crap. I'm like, yeah, Mini's not for me.
Nope.
And then the Volvo V70R was actually one of my cars on my wish list that if I were to get a daily driver, that would have been one of them.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I wonderful cars. Don't give one to me because I'll blow some head gaskets in it. But other people are allowed to have those because they don't blow head gaskets for some reason for everyone else on the planet.
Hey, that's why my Buick's out. So I might be in the same club as you are, Ike.
But how many head gaskets have you gone through in that thing? Just one?
The Buick?
Yeah.
I feel I'm not replacing them. The Buick is.
Why did you? Problem solved.
No, I just bought.
That's what you do. Get juke.
Yeah. No, Johnny's got a problems with Pontiacs. He just keeps buying Grand Prix for some reason. Well, this is again. We're gonna hold a intervention for him at some point, but today's not the day. So I think
I can't stand Pontiacs.
You can't stand Pontiacs?
Because a while back I had, in a way, the Pontiac, but it was a vibe, so it wasn't really a Pontiac.
Yeah, that's a Toyota.
yeah, but in a way, but that thing still because the Matrix and the Vibe had parts are different. Like the Vibe had a lot of small parts are different here and there. Like one was the AC compressor was different between the two which was I found really odd.
Mm-hmm. You cut out there a little bit after you said AC compressor. What else did you find odd?
Just that one part I found odd. How they're so similar, yet the AC compressor is so different.
Mm. Well, I mean, I don't know. There's that aspect of badge engineering where you're like, if it's the same car, then what the heck's the point? But if they start tinkering with parts and then a part breaks on one but doesn't break on the other, you kind of hate them for it. So I don't know which is worse, if it's all the same or if little bits are different and the little bits that are different are the parts that break. So I don't know. Like, you would I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
now,
weird.
see, that car,
mm-hmm.
Like, that car was great for practicality, but I don't miss it one bit. It was a piece of junk.
Yeah, I don't. I love me a Grand Prix, and I love some other Pontiacs, but there's also some Pontiacs. Yeah, I would never buy like a Grand Am or a Vibe.
A Grandma Dam, that's what I call them. Not Grand Ams, Grandma Ams.
Yeah, Grandma Ams. Yep.
I was thinking about this though. Since you have the shop now, you're probably going to need a shop truck, right, Johnny?
If I do buy a truck, I would go Raptor. I love the Ford Raptor.
No. Do a Power Wagon, 6.4 Hemi. Gotta get it.
I was going to say Chevy HHR-SS panel wagon or panel van. Huh?
Nah, I think that the Raptor has me won over in the truck department.
You're right about panel vans because they have blank space to put a lot of ads on. So for advertising, they're great in that aspect.
Yeah, and it's an SS, and you could put a Pontiac badge on it and call it a Life. You know,
right?
It's basically a Pontiac. I mean, it's in the same family. It's just a couple of years after. Actually, they were making the HHR while Pontiac was still alive, so, you know.
Yeah?
Why not?
No, let's go even weirder, like an SSR.
Ooh, that's a good one, too, but...
No, more weird, a Prowler. A Plymouth Prowler.
Ooh,
really weird.
Those things are getting crazy money as of late. Like, those things dipped into the 20s recently, but they've shot back up into the 30s for like a decent model, and some of them are catching way more money than that.
Do you know how the Prowler was born?
Chip Foose designed it while he was in design school and gave it to Plymouth for like I believe the exact study he was doing was like they wanted to do lifestyle cars, and all these other students were coming up with
practical, yeah.
Well, no, like the other students were doing like, here's like a person who like goes to the beach every week, who also has like 2 dogs, and like his mentality was, here's a car for people who like hot rods. Like, yeah, we like that vehicle. Like, are you interested in coming?
No, but the
Huh?
In all honesty, I think that car is underrated. Sure has V6.
Yeah.
But it still did 0-60 in like 5.5 seconds or around there. Had 250 horsepower. It was not it. Sorry about that, but it was not a slow car. It couldn't move.
No, the problem that car had is it comes down to 2 things. All the crash safety stuff they had to put onto it messed up the look. But worse than that, it has
which would lead into my point if you Chip Foose actually redesigned the car.
Yeah, no, I've
came out with another version.
Yeah, he had a kit to fix it, and then he had a whole new one from the ground up. But the worst part about that car was the transmission in that thing, because it had that terrible Chrysler, like, early 2000s era 3-speed with the overdrive like add-on.
I'll explain that actually, because that tunnel is so cramped. Because if you sit in one, it is a very cramped car. There was no space for a clutch pedal or manual transmission, so they had to do it automatic for space wise. That's why.
Yeah, I understand that, but that transmission, if you've ever had to live with that transmission, is the most infuriating thing on the planet. I've had it in a few Dodges. I was forced to rent when my Challengers were going to the shop, and it's just it starts.
3-speed.
It's a 3-speed with an overdrive add-on to it, so it's all in the same housing, and it just you put your foot to the floor. And it stays in gear.
1970.
Yeah, it's been around for forever, and it just stays in gear. It's not like a normal shifter. Like, it's not like a normal 3-speed. My Saturn 3-speed automatic was better than this because it would go shift. It would start at, 2,000 RPM, and it would just go, and, it would hit, close to red line, and you'd be like, okay, you can shift now, and it would just go, and then it would shift gear, but it would take forever. It would go, and it would start from all over again at 2,000 RPM. You're like, oh my god, this thing does not understand how to if this was someone driving your car, you'd be like, you're breaking the car. It's just the most infuriating sluggish thing. You can't from 0 to 60. It's great, huh?
My Vibe have 4-speed automatic.
Yeah.
That thing would not shift for its life.
Yeah.
That thing hates shifting gears.
Yeah, I mean, that's that Toyota transmission. I think that was in that. That I've heard wicked things about that too, because it's the same thing. Is it's built for economy over speed, but then they tinker with it. So then it's supposed to be one thing, but then it ends up having other parts and internals thrown into it. Where the GM, the one thing they always kind of got right was their automatic transmissions were all kind of their torque converter automatics were always good. Now their DCTs I've heard awful things about, but then again Ford's DCTs have just been crap too. So there's that. So it's kind of, and then I don't know, Dodge, their best transmission was basically a leftover part from Mercedes now. So who knows what the hell's going to go on with that? I don't know. It's all crazy. But ooh, that's a good one. That came out since the last time I spoke. What do y'all think about the Demon?
Ooh, it has me interested.
Don't start on that. Do not start on that. Next topic.
Well, we're starting. Huh?
Still, hear me out. Dodge took a 20-year-old platform, put in a huge Hemi with a big blower on it. Oh, congratulations! They came out of the Stone Age having a rockin' hammer, hands and nail. That's what it's like.
Yeah, typically, I would not defend Dodge, but before I do that, I'm curious about Johnny's thoughts on it.
It's, I applaud Dodge. Mm-hmm. Give them the golf clap because, it's okay, you're just going to throw more power at it. Okay. Mm-hmm. But you know what they say, every demon has an exorcist.
It's true. So, I know whether... Exactly. But...
No, I find the problem is for a demon is that people are going to buy it and stash it in your garage, mm-hmm. and this is go up in value and not drive it.
Yeah,
that's the problem with it.
Well, what's going to be interesting is I wonder if the Hell, because they're going to build a fair amount of them from what I've heard, but I wonder if the Hellcat, you're going to be seeing a lot of them showing up with less than 20 miles on the clock, just wrecked because people take them to the drag strip or they take them out on the street. They don't understand the car, and they just put them into guardrails and everything. But
that's a Mustang.
Well, true. No, Mustangs go into crowds. Dodges go into guardrails. That's how that works. Oh. No, what's so interesting about the Demon to me is that
excuse me.
You're good. It's just like having Mr. Regular on the show. Is they left the chassis alone, but what they did is they threw so much science and engineering into that drivetrain. We got a transmission brake, and we got the car to do wheelies, and we did this, that, and the other to it. It gets 100 octane fuel, and they threw so much crap onto such an old platform. It's it makes me wonder what Dodge would be able to do if Dodge actually ever had money to do anything. It's so fascinating because they get their attention diverted. The Viper comes out. The Viper's an amazing piece of machinery and then they just kind of forget about it, and then they move on to the Challenger, and then they throw all this crap at the Challenger, and they're going to lose their track again, and they're going to be off doing something else crazy. And it's like you need to focus on not on identity, but on advancing platforms. Dodge. I get platform engineering is expensive, but for the love of God, do some so we can actually see what you can do with a whole fresh new platform instead of just throwing good shit onto a bad platform. So.
And that what has me thinking too. It's like, okay, Hellcat, awesome. Again, golf clap for
being Brampton.
Just golf clap for being out, spontaneous and outrageous like that. But now they released the Demon. I bet you that now the Hellcat sales are going to go to shit.
Yeah.
Hellcats are going to be super cheap now. So there you go. I just wait another couple of years, and you'll have a Hellcat motor for your Super Leggera Volvo there.
Yeah.
And so I mean, they're competing with themselves now.
Yeah, they're
why?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're trying to basically.
I think that too is how competition is good, but competition internally branded can backfire.
Yeah.
At the same time.
Mm-hmm.
I think it goes back to the 2000s, back when Chevy killed the fourth or fifth gen Camaro, because the Corvette cannibalized those sales. Because the Camaro was getting so good and so close to the Corvette that I think GM had to kill the Camaro to keep the Corvette alive.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, GM has already proven that back when the Buick Grand National was being produced. They had to kill the Grand National because the Grand National was faster than the Corvette, and that was hurting the Corvette sales. Now, Dodge's supercar is the Viper, and so why are they spending all this R&D in a Challenger? Is it because it's cost effective?
Airbag.
Is it because it's,
Because the airbags, that's why.
Well, the Viper's done. This is the last year of the Viper. The Viper, gone bye bye. So.
Yeah. The problem is the Viper has no side airbags. So, and I think the government, I don't know what, because Canada follows the same rules as states.
Yeah.
They're so close for regulations. It makes sense in that way, but
yeah.
I think as the next year, all cars are going to have any side impact airbags, and then the Viper has none of those.
It's got no room for them if you've ever been in one, yeah. There's...
I wish I could be in a Viper.
I think half of the problem is Dodge gets easily distracted. They're like a kid with ADD. And the other half of the issue is they refuse to design a new platform, and that's what's going to kill them because gas is going to go back up, and they got nothing when gas goes back up. They're going to be fucked.
They take time.
Yeah.
I mean, for Dodge, I have mixed feelings. I'm happy because the Camaro and the Mustang have turned to sports cars. The Challenger is still a muscle car.
Yeah. It's a true...
Dodge is making...
Yep.
I'm happy Dodge is still making these wild muscle cars with 5 horsepower.
Mm-hmm.
That's great, but it's a terrible execution, I think, for Dodge.
Yeah.
Great idea, but terrible execution.
No, I'm with you. I just looked up at the time, too, and I am going to, unfortunately, have to kind of call this one for the evening. So maybe I'll do another one of these next week, and hopefully I don't get delayed as much as I did today. So, Crazy Kanuck, thank you for joining us this evening. Johnny, thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you, too.
Oh, no
Thanks,
problem. I'm going to go ahead and just say, everyone listening, go follow this show at Untitled Car Show on Twitter. And thanks, everyone, so much for listening. Have a good night. Have a good evening, wherever you are, whatever time it is there. Thank you so much for listening. Be safe out there. And then I'm going to end the show right now.